I already took off some of the tuners. You can see they are very flippy, floppy. Yeah, I could probably squeeze this to tighten this and tighten this, etc. But I went on Amazon. Oh, we might have a little tiny assistant here. I went on Amazon. I found some supposedly better tuners. We'll see if they fit. But here's the important part and why I wanted this specific guitar, and that is these covers. So not only do they cover the string ends to prevent tiny hands from getting pricked, they also act as a bushing. So I don't know, I wanted to get regular traditional electric guitar tuners for this rather than this with the open gears that is usually for acoustic, I guess. But I don't know why they didn't engineer something or design something that works, you know, electric guitar style, that has the covers, but they didn't. So this is what it looks like. There you go. So removal is obviously very simple. You just unscrew these 4 screws. One comes a little assistant. 2. 4, and it pops right out, and these things are right here. Simple as that. And that's it. I've taken apart most of the things here. I took off the bridge, and I will show you. So all the parts attached to this guitar are suitably very lightweight. It makes sense. I mean, you're not going to be performing concerts, and you want to make this whole package as light as possible for a little person. However, you know, there are compromises because, for one thing, the bridge isn't grounded, and although it's really, really stiff, firm plastic, I'm sure there's a little bit of flex, so stability of the tune isn't great. Also, the what do they call this? The string bar, you know, up top. Usually, you only find these with locking tremolos, you know, locking bridge. But I guess they installed one again for the little hands so that they don't, I don't know, get caught underneath the strings. But this is also plastic. It's very rigid, actually. I tried to bend it. It doesn't bend. I think it would break before it bends. And very lightweight. Everything's lightweight. Even the strap buttons are plastic. Now, one might think, what the heck, you know, a strap button in metal weighs almost nothing, but it's all cumulative, you know, all these little things, you know, a gram here, half a gram here, etc. It all adds up, and it significantly changes the weight of the guitar. So I'm sure they did this well for 2 reasons: to make the guitar more affordable, because, you know, even though this costs like probably a cent, if even, when you buy it in bulk, and maybe the metal one costs 3 cents, you add it up to, you know, 1 million units, and you make significant savings there. Additionally, you know, it's more lightweight. But In spite of that, I'm going to be changing this all to the real stuff. Yes, the guitar is probably going to be heavier. Not probably, it definitely will be heavier. I wish I had taken a measurement of how heavy the guitar is before and after my modifications, but I guess I could get all the pieces that I take off, put it on a scale, and weigh it, and see what the difference is between them and the new pieces when put on a scale. The speaker cone got a little crushed by the baby, but this is what it looks like. And this is the amplifier that is attached to the plate here. I removed it, and using Grok, I took some photos of this and asked it how I can improve this for better sound quality, and so it gave me some suggestions, and so I purchased all the components, and I will be modifying this to have better response, better bass response, cleaner sound, etc. I was going to change the pot, but honestly, it's pretty quiet. I don't hear much crackling, if at all, when I turn the knob while it was plugged in. So I'm not gonna mess with it since it fits so perfectly and snugly. And here goes the baby knocking down the stand. So yeah, in the back, the pickup is soldered on, so I have to unsolder that. And in the back, I also removed the battery compartment, which came right out. And cool thing is, other than the pickup, everything is just plug and play. The speaker will have to be unsoldered because apparently they ran the wire and then soldered the speaker in. And so that's it for now. My little helper is going to destroy everything before I even get to fix it. You can tell I'm on daddy daycare right now. Mommy is unavailable, and so I have to take care of everything, including her. We have the tuners that I purchased for very little money on Amazon arrived. They look a lot nicer, they feel a lot nicer. They're definitely a bit heavier than the original tuners, which are satisfactory, I guess, but they're definitely not as good as these. And this is like some cheap stuff, you know. I'm not going to go and spend $300 on tuners on this guitar, but you can see that the gear wheel over here is brass, and brass has self-lubricating properties, so this should be, you know, smoother, and everything is nice and tight, not wobbling all over the place. So there should be more stability, and of course it's more ornate. Looks a little nicer than this plain Jane thing. I don't know if it flexes more or not. You can see this bends. Slightly stiffer. I don't know if the gauge is different. I didn't measure it, nor do I care, because these are definitely better. And the knobs are cream color, which will go nicely with the paint scheme that I plan to do on this guitar, which is going to be lavender and cream, Eddie Van Halen inspired. And so the holes, these mounting holes, don't line up with the original holes, and that's not a problem because I'm just going to fill it up, maybe glue in a toothpick and drill new holes. But the important part is that this fits with the these protective covers. I should get my stand instead of trying to do this one-handed. So that protective cover slash bushing goes in there, and so then the tuners, sorry, horrible camera work, but hold on, let me do this. Fits nicely, nice and snug, and the covers will cover the guitar string ends so that little fingers don't get pricked. And this is what it looks like in the back, and you can see that none of the holes line up, and I wouldn't care too much because, as you see, the plate covers up the old holes. However, on some of the holes, the new hole is very close to the old hole, so I'm afraid that it might break through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue some wood into the old holes, probably just a toothpick. That way the whole thing is stable once I make the new holes. That's a perfect fit. So there you go. These first act guitars use standard size acoustic guitar tuners. And I probably could have found tuners that had these holes that line up, but you know what? These were very cheap, and so they're good enough. They're more than good enough for this application. The other thing that we have is humbucker arrived. We have the humbucker here, and this is a stacked humbucker. And for those of you who are unfamiliar, it is instead of having, you know, the two coils side by side to create a humbucker, what these stacked humbuckers, or also known as noiseless pickups, do is they put everything on top of each other. So you see the 4 wires there, so this could be split, I assume. I don't know. I would assume it can because you have 4 wires, but you know, I'm not going to be splitting, so I'm going to be combining 2 of the wires and just soldering it into the amp over there. And that will replace this. This is a single coil humbucker, and it's perfect fit. It's a good deal. And lastly, I will be, what I noticed after inspecting this more closely is that the nut is, let me zoom in, you see that? That's cracking. The neck is splitting by where the nut is, and it's splitting outward. I think that the wood of this neck has shrunken so much that it contracted and split over here, and it looks like that this isn't even Indian laurel or anything. I think it's just painted wood. It might be maple, just like I think the rest of the neck is, because if I look carefully into the crack there, and you can see the wood is not dark. So this is definitely just painted or dyed, which is fine. It doesn't matter. The only thing is, when I go to dress these frets, probably going to be scratching the sides here, which means I will have to touch it up so that it doesn't look unsightly. But since I have to repair this, and since the action is so low, it's ridiculously low, too low, I think. I am going to replace the nut with a brass nut. That's right. Oops. Oh, there it went. Anyway, I'm going to be replacing it with a brass nut, and I think brass nut is the way to go. It's, well, I don't know. It's definitely better than plastic. It's a little thicker, but not a problem. I'll just sand it down and make it fit. I don't want to go sanding into the wood. It's easier to sand this down actually, because it's in my hand. Just run it along a piece of sandpaper on a flat surface, and I'll thin it down. I had actually purchased this for a different project, a Malmsteen replica that I am saving. I have the real deal, but this is a replica that was unusable and was just going to be wall art. But I decided, you know, what the heck, let me make this a usable instrument. I have changes about everything on it. But anyway, I digress. So I had purchased this brass nut for that guitar, but I have since decided to go a different direction. I am going to be simply replacing that whole neck on that guitar, and it'll already come with the brass nut. So I have this brass nut sitting around, so might as well make use of it and put it in here. Now all this hardware is going to definitely increase the weight of this guitar. Hopefully when I'm done it won't be too heavy, because as it is for a children's guitar, since it is all wood and not plastic like most kids' guitars are, it is pretty heavy, I must say. But you know, that's the price of admission. That's why I say, you know, even though this thing is marketed as a toy, it's actually a real guitar. It's you know, economically built guitar, but it is a real guitar. And I think that once I take care of all the shortcomings, I think it's going to be excellent. The frets look great. I of course will be polishing them, etc. But that all will happen once I do the fret dressing, fix the ends, you know, that are like razors. It's horrible. I mean, no kid would use this as it is. No adult, nobody would use this, because as you run your fingers, it just slices your hands. So I guess that's why whoever got rid of it, because they're not about to pay a luthier to do that, because that would cost way more than the guitar's worth. But I happen to know how to do it and have all the tools to do it, so why the heck not? So here's the beautiful new hardware. A beautiful hardtail bridge. This is the new speaker, substantially more efficient, smaller, and lighter than the original, and with better frequency response, and I'm assuming butyl rubber surround. A volume knob. This really wasn't necessary, but I really didn't like the feel of the very lightweight and loose plastic knob that came on the guitar, so I bought this one. And honestly, had I known this was so heavy, I probably would not have purchased it. It is nicely made, but it is very heavy, very heavy. And these are screws with mounting bushings for the neck. I was going to use a plate, but the size of the neck is non-standard. As such, there were no neck plates that were available that would have fit. My only option was to have one custom ordered, which didn't make sense because I would have to order like 10 or 100. So I'm opting for this. My EVH Wolfgang uses a similar setup, and it works just fine. And it's, you know, it's a freaking $2,000 guitar. So if it works for that, it'll work for this toy. And lastly, these are glow-in-the-dark side dots. This guitar has no dots on the side of the neck. It only has them on the front. So I decided to buy some, and I figured why not get glow-in-the-dark. And I will be drilling into the black colored fretboard to insert these. That way they are visible in the light and in low light situations. Next, I will weigh all this and compare it to the weight of the stuff that I am going to be removing to see approximately how much I am increasing or decreasing the overall weight of the guitar.